Good afternoon and welcome to our continued series on the diversity of faith. In this program, we continue with traditions of the East and explore the religion of Taoism. And as a reminder to some of what we've spoken about in the past, Eastern traditions are different from Western, or what we call Abrahamic religions, which most of us are familiar with. In Eastern religions, there is an emphasis on monism, which is one kind of reality, that all beings have value, but their otherness is an illusion. In Eastern religions, the divine is also immanent in creation. In other words, it is not separate. Usually there is no words for the divine. And we also explore other various aspects. For example, in Eastern religions, the individual is not real. The separateness of humans from creation and from one another is an illusion that is to be overcome. Human nature is essentially ignorant. In other words, we become better by becoming more enlightened or following a way. All of this leads to some questions about whether or not Eastern religions are more philosophical, or whether or not Eastern traditions are more religions, which we will continue to explore. For as long as people have lived in China, the country has been its own highly distinctive religious traditions, and is part, in fact, to beliefs that grew out of isolation from elsewhere. And we explored in other sessions the ethical teachings of Confucius in China, and how it was augmented by some later prophets, especially Mencius and Hu Tzu. The Taoist religion, on the other hand, emerged almost as a foil to Confucianism's emphasis on service to society, concerned with seeking a mystical unity with the Tao, a metaphysical absolute, by the contemplation of nature. Both of these traditions also changed through the influence of Buddhism. And the extent of the crossover between these three great traditions, Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism, is such that today many people see no problem in being a member of all three. In the 20th century, all of these traditions struggled to survive the emergence of Maoist communism and the onslaught of the Cultural Revolution, while in more recent years, the reemergence and rise of Christianity in these cultures has been one of the major results of the relaxation of some of the state's prescriptions. In Taoism, we also refer to it as the Tadi Jitu, or the yin and the yang. This is a very familiar symbol that you saw in this image. In the yin and in the yang, the black shape is the yin, and the clear shape, often pictured as white, is considered the yang. And the yin and the yang are not opposites, but the yin and the yang are complementary, not opposing forces. The question people very often have is Taoism a philosophy, or is Taoism more of a religion? And it's a very powerful question that people discussed. There is a common Chinese distinction that can be helpful in answering this question. The distinction is between the terms Qia, schools of thought or philosophy, and Qiao, teachings or religion. Qia refers more to the great thinkers and their teachings and the great traditions. The latter, or Qiao, refers to the religious and to the unique ways in which great traditions have been appropriated by the people at grassroots levels. A distinction between the great intellectual traditions and the cultic and devotional side of religious life is made in all of the Chinese traditions, the ones we've studied of Confucianism and Buddhism, and this one today of Taoism. The Chinese traditions, however, never felt the need to contrast the Qia and the Qiao in a hostile way, but in a way that allows them to represent two different parts of one continuum. They are different yet related. In China, traditionally, each of the great religions operated on both levels. There were great Confucian, Taoist, and Buddhist philosophers, as well as masters of various religious arts of meditation, liturgy, and tradition. And as we mentioned already today, many people see no crossover in being a member of all three traditions. But Taoism has its beginning generally accredited to Lao Tzu, a 6th century philosopher, believed to be from the Henan, or the province that is highlighted before you. What Taoists believe in what's called is the Te, or power. The power of a thing is its virtue, its identity, or its genuineness. The Te is expressed through humility and through weakness and through humbleness. Another very important concept in Taoism is what's called the Wu Wei. This concept is one that relates to the conscious mind, or the non-being. What it seeks is a denial of anything that's personal and the dissolution of conscious individual self. As we discussed, one of the characteristics of Eastern religion is that the individual is not real, and there is a separateness of humans from creation and from one another that's an illusion to be overcome. So part of the understanding is that we become better by becoming more enlightened. And Eastern religions feature well-developed practices that allow for this. The best example of Wu Wei is water. Water is supple, yet it is strong and has power. It flows over what it encounters, but it also fills what it encounters. It means it is simply following the way of nature. It does not have its own essence. It follows the flow that it is given. Another very important concept in Taoism is Pu, which means unpainted wood. And what it is a stress on the simplicity of things in life, the stress on the need to leave things in their natural state and in their natural form. Taoists, in other words, prefer very simple, honest lives, prefer non-interference with the course of natures. They don't like politics, they don't like administrations, they don't like elaborate rituals, and they don't seek after that which is politically oriented, which is a complete contrast to what we discussed in Confucianism. So people say, well, then how would you have a Taoist government, or how would Taoism relate to a nation? What they would stress is not having an emphasis on status, intelligence, or possessions. They would govern with the least visibility and with a very serving attitude. There would be a reduction in laws, and governing would be done very softly and lightly, and take few actions that involve the people. In terms of international politics, they would treat other countries non-aggressively. And this is because Taoists believe that the purpose of life is to live according to the Tao, or the way. And this requires calmness, passiveness, and humility. One of the questions that people often have in studying Taoism is, as it said, is it a religion or is it a philosophy? And if it is a religion, is there a concept of God? When Taoism first developed, there were no deities. There was only the Tao. As time went on, though, many gods became present in the religion. The suspicion is that many of these gods were adapted from individual indigenous traditions that existed at the same time. The sacred text of this religion is called the Tao Te Ching, and it is very popular in Western cultures. It was written by Lao Tzu in the 6th century before the Common Era. It's about 6,000 words and is very cryptic and metaphorical. So let me just read to you. The Tai gave them birth. The power of the Tao reared them, shaped them according to their kinds, perfected them, giving to each its strength. Therefore, of the 10,000 things, there is not one that does not worship Tao and do homage to its power. As I said, it's a very cryptic and metaphorical book. It was a guidebook for Chinese rulers and stressed how to rule effectively in a non-assertive way. In other words, seeking action in inaction. Another reading from it says, all things alter and change, never a moment ceasing, revolving, whirling, and rolling away, driven far off and returning onward, like the mutations of cicada, profound, subtle, and illimitable. Who can finish describing it? And that is very often a description that is used to describe the Wu Wei that we just talked about, which is again a concept of the conscious mind and of sort of an uncontrived action. There are two types of deities that did develop in Taoism. The first type consisted of natural gods, the highest gods, who are believed to have emerged from the primordial energy at the beginning of the world. And these gods developed as part of Taoism between the 2nd and the 6th centuries of the Common Era. The second type of deity that developed consisted of human beings who, through learning, self-discipline, alchemy, or by some other means, were able to purify themselves and become gods. The highest of these deities in Taoism is considered the 3 purities or the 3 clarities. And in Taoism, these deities rule over the great heavenly realms. The 3 purities are still worshipped in China today, and the most important hall is the White Cloud Monastery, which is devoted to them. The first of the 3 purities is considered the celestial worthy of primordial beginning. He's the central of these 3 purities. And the way to think of these 3 purities is very much how in Hinduism we talked about the Trimurti, the 3 deities that were the lead gods. And this is another way of sort of relating it to other Eastern traditions. But the celestial worthy of primordial beginning is believed to have spontaneously formed from pure energy at the beginning of the world. And that's why he's called the celestial worthy of primordial beginnings. He is believed to have created the first writing system. He is believed to have written in patterns of gold on jade tablets. And so he is the god of learning. He is very often depicted in art with jade around him, as you can see from the green color around this painting. The second one of the deities is considered to be the attendant of the celestial worthy of primordial being, and he is called the celestial worthy of numinous treasure. Most of us don't usually use the word numinous, but it means supernatural or supernaturally elevated. And he is believed to have given the task of delivering lessons to lesser gods and human beings. And he is therefore the Taoist god of teaching. And so he's very often depicted with the 3 who are always usually depicted together. The third one is the celestial worthy of the way and its power. In other words, this is Lao Tzu, the human being deified. His title was derived from the name of the text attributed him, the classic of the way and its power, or what we call the Tao Te Ching. Lao Tzu differs from the others in that he played a very active role in the development of Chinese civilization and often appeared to reveal divine teachings, and would especially reveal them to human beings. And here again is a depiction of all 3 of them. They are sometimes called the 3 officials, also a triad of deities who are in charge of heaven, earth, and water. and they travel their domains, recording good and bad deeds of people to determine their lifespan and their destiny. They punish evil and are so considered sort of stern and opposing officials. This is another depiction of them, and as you can see from their faces, they're very stern looking. Their gowns also depict what they are the deities of, whether they're the official of heaven or earth. Here is a depiction. It may be a little bit difficult to see, but this is one of the officials of heaven, and he is shown in the painting at his office, sitting at a desk, surrounded by officers and females, which are called jade maidens, and they appear in some of the green. The official of earth is depicted as touring the earth, his domain, and he's usually accompanied by armed people as well as demons to punish the wicked. And if you look at the bottom of the picture, you can see some of the demons. The official of water very often rides a dragon. It is in the picture, it's a little hard to see, but the dragon is traditionally a symbol of rain. There are usually two attendants who ride on sea turtles, who symbolize longevity. The official of water is also usually accompanied by people with armor and weapons to emphasize his ability to enforce his authority. Taoists believe that there is no one creator such as exists in Western traditions like Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. They believe instead that at the beginning there was only chaos, a void, which was called Wuji. And from Wuji, the void, the cosmos came into being. And as it came into being, the energies of yin and yang, if you remember that symbol at the beginning of the black and the white together, combined together to create what they call the Taji Do. And from this creation process emerged what's called Qi. I know it looks like QI, but it said Qi. And that came from the blending of the yin and the yang. And the concept of joining of yin and yang is often compared kind of to the Big Bang theory. So the concept of Qi may be more understood as sort of, if you're familiar with the Star Wars theory, Star Wars movies, there's a theory called the Force. It's kind of an energy, a primordial energy that exists. And Qi can be very much seen as this primordial energy. And all things of life contain Qi. It fills the entire universe, permeates everything from rocks and trees and waters and clouds to animals and even people. People are said to have a very strong Qi. Some people, in trying to explain or analyze Qi, compare it to quantum physics, that it is kind of like a building block of life, like an atom, and that all things come out of there. So Qi is a very, very important energy for human beings. It's almost like a life force that exists too. But creation came out of the wuxing, or the 5 qualities that developed from Qi, and these are known to make up all substances. So all things have these 5 qualities, or have one of these 5 qualities. And the 5 qualities are fire, earth, metal, wood, and water. So just to explain it a little bit more clearly, the Wu Ji was that void, that primordial void that existed. Out of the Wu Ji came the yin and the yang. This emphasis of dark and clear, often depicted as white, who blended together to give you the Taji Du, which we very often call the yin and the yang here. And it's the idea that it's a pure balance. And out of this came the wuxing, which were the 5 qualities, again, of wood, water, earth, things like that. Most famous monastery in Taoism is the Hengshan Monastery. It is located on the cliffs of Mount Hengshan, which is one of the 5 sacred mountains of Taoism. It is in the Shaanxi province of China, near the city of Datong. As you can see, it is in the northeastern section of China. This is a fascinating monastery because it literally hangs off of the cliffs of the mountain. It was built about 1400 years ago in the Jinlong Canyon on completely sheer cliffs. Here's a clearer picture of it. It is different sections that are connected with bridges and corridors, different pavilions. There are also caves in which there are dozens of bronze, iron, stone, and clay statues enshrined. And in the Hengshe Monastery are what's considered the three religions hall. So the three traditions of China, Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism, come together, and they are all enshrined here. Because in the present day, these three faiths coexist in the temple, as we've mentioned. The temple today is shared by people of all three faiths and revered by people of all three faiths. One question a lot of people have is, why would you build a monastery on a cliff? It was built at this location because it was convenient for passing pilgrims. It is a passageway that leads to a shrine to the south and to Datong City in the north. It was built on the cliff because the river which flowed past the foot of the cliff would flood whenever there was a storm. And the legend says that there was a golden dragon who caused the flooding. And so the monastery, the temple, was built high on the cliffs to keep away from the flooding and to ward off the influence of the dragon. And here are again some striking pictures of just how much in the cliff it is built and how high up it is. You get a real essence from the picture on the left of how high the cliff is. This is a picture inside the three great halls. Another famous shrine of Taoism is the Xinyang Palace. This is sometimes called the Gray Goat Palace. It is located in the Sichuan province of China. So it is further south and to the west of the other monastery. And it is located in the suburbs of a very big city called Chengdu. China has an interesting history in that many of these regions were very rural until the industrialization about 30 or 40 years ago, and literally cities of 50 million people sprung up overnight as they started to produce products. But Qizhang is one of the oldest and most extensive Taoist temples in this area. The legend says that Lao Tzu asked a friend to meet him there. When the friend arrived, he saw only a boy leading two goats on a leash. He realized the boy was Lao Tzu. That's the reason that this compound has two eye-catching bronze goats. Although called a goat, one of them is a very strange creature with mouse ears, an ox nose, tiger paws, a rabbit back, snake tail, dragon horns, horse mouth, goat beard, monkey neck, chicken eyes, dog belly, pig thighs. And it is said that this goat had some supernatural powers, and anyone who touches it could survive from terrible illnesses or terrible misfortune. So let me show you the inside of this complex. Very beautiful. And there are many stairs to the palace. Long, steep stairs that lead you to this beautiful entranceway. And this is the depiction of that goat that I just read you the description of. There are many other animals present. So, for example, we have a lion. Taoism today is also very interesting. Throughout history, the diverse masters of Taoism sought in various ways to become part of the self-so-ness of reality. Like life rolls on by itself in an unbroken wave of creative spontaneity. Neither the Confucian heaven, nor the rule of earthly kings and emperors, nor the folly of demons and goblins can defy it. The true immortal lives to learn a life in tune with the Tao. In the Taoist religion, there is a poetic touch, a realization that life is beautiful and frightening, a panorama of transformation. It is a religion that is successful at invoking a sense of wonder that transforms human beings. So within these retreats that we saw, within these monasteries and lake pavilions, the Taoists really are poets of nature. One of the very popular beliefs of Taoism is in Feng Shui, and this is a very popular belief in the West. What the term Feng Shui means is seeking harmony, and it was originally conceptualized as a philosophy system of harmonizing everyone with their surrounding environments. The term itself, Feng Shui, literally means wind and water in English. Feng Shui today is very often done in people's homes to create a sense of harmony. And it is believed that Feng Shui can affect our mind, our spirit, our mood. Recently I was talking with somebody and they were talking about how they felt out of harmony because their living spaces was not very Feng Shui. So for example, a bed in a room that was Feng Shuied would open with the feet toward the door so that there was a sense of flow in the room. Feng Shui would also be not, for example, having a bedroom above a kitchen, because the heat or the energy from the kitchen would create negative energy as you were trying to calm and cool and sleep. So it would cause sleep disturbances. And Feng Shui today is very, very popular in the West. And you see lots and lots of books on Feng Shui and how to design your home and your surrounding in Feng Shui. This picture to me was fascinating. This is at the metro station in Los Angeles in Chinatown. And it is what's called a Feng Shui spiral. So you have right here in the heart of Los Angeles a Feng Shui spiral, which talks about bringing harmony and peace to those different things. And you'll see lots of different symbols. But inside of the circle, you'll see contained negative aspects. So things like inexperience, difficult beginnings. And the idea is to contain the negative, but also to allow positive to flow through it. So you'll also see in that circle aspects such as peace, or community, or moderation, or conduct, or restrictions. And this poetic beauty is really important in Taoism. Taoism today continues in three major forms as in organized religious institutions such as some of the temples that you saw. It also exists in societies for self-cultivation, so Qigong. And some of you may be familiar with Qigong because it is actually a form of meditative practice and exercise. We also have many aspects of Taoism today in lots of practices that people are familiar with or seeking after to improve their lives. So, for example, many people today will seek aspects that are meant for spiritual development, health, and longevity, such as acupuncture, which is very, very popular. and being more and more widely used in the West. We also see things like Chinese herbal medicine becoming very important. And we see people wanting to sort of realign their qi or their energy and practice this in what's called Taji Quan. In Taoist religions, there's again a poetic quality that is important. And today, this sense of poetic beauty and desire to achieve oneness with the Tao still informs the Taoist religion. And again, as we said in the beginning, because of the great revolutionary changes in China and the determined animosity of Maoism towards spiritual, what they call superstition, it's difficult to tell what will happen with Taoism and how it will survive in China. In recent years, however, a distinctive detente concerning religious affairs has been noticed. I just want to close by giving you one of the writings of the Chao Ching, which expresses the sense of wonder tinged with serene resignation and hope. It says, just surrender to the cycle of things. Give yourself to the waves of great change, neither happy nor yet afraid. And when it is time to go, then simply go without unnecessary fuss. So I thank you for joining me today and hope that you have learned something interesting about this unique tradition and that you've also gained some understanding of some of the popular aspects of it in the West. Have a great afternoon.